Good morning, and welcome to Space News, Day 13 asterisk. That asterisk is because this is the second time I've recorded a Day 13 episode. The other episodes were scrubbed, but I'm very happy to announce that this is the final overlapping episode. From here on out, I will have now completed what are 26 episodes, which is super exciting. Thank you for sticking around. Appreciate having you here. Let's get into it. I'm going to read a news article or two from one of these websites: Ars Technica, Space News, or Payload. Let's see what they have to offer. Rocket report: SpaceX at the service of a rival. Endeavour goes vertical. Why interstellar objects like Oumuamua and Borisov may hold clues to exoplanets. Here on Space News, which is about business, politics, and perspective, so maybe not as technically focused, talks about China, NASA, inland spaceports seek ways to host orbital launches. You know what? Let's have a look at that. This is most launch facilities like Vandenberg and out on the West Coast in California, and the two Florida launch bases are obviously on the coast. And more, provinces and states want to get into the space race, and so anybody on the inside of the country is asking themselves, how do I get involved with launch companies without launching a vehicle over the heads of tens of thousands of people? So let's see what they say here. This is an article from February 3rd by Jeff Faust. New Mexico's Spaceport America, which hosts suborbital launches by Virgin Galactic and others, has proposed a prize to stimulate development of vehicles that can launch to orbit from there. So it sounds like they need to have a specific kind of vehicle. Let's think to ourselves, what is the difference between a vehicle that would launch from a spaceport on the coast and one that would launch from inland? Sure. I mean, launching more vertically would be an initial guess of mine, but what is like you have a specific orbital trajectory that you need to achieve, and so usually I guess I was going to say you usually want to lean towards using Earth's gravitational pull to help assist your acceleration as you try to reach orbit. But I'm also thinking mostly the Kerbal Space Program, and that assumes a specific orbit, whereas if you want to launch to a polar orbit, you don't really care necessarily about that. So perhaps it's that. Perhaps they're talking more about plane. No, but they want to get into orbit, so it has to be, at least for now, some form of launch vehicle. Let's see. I don't have any good guesses. That's what I'm getting to. With congestion growing at the nation's major launch sites, they are swapping rockets like day of, every second day sometimes, and on launch sites. I think a couple weeks ago, SpaceX did 2 launches in one day from Cape Canaveral. Double check me, but that was a record. That's the fastest that they've ever launched 2 vehicles back to back from the same site. I want to check that out. I don't want to give you false information. It feels bad. Let's just look up a record. SpaceX's record year. Yeah, SpaceX launches 2 rockets 3 hours apart to close out a record year, and launch them from Cape Canaveral. Go, Mike's memory. Let's go. The number of commercial launches licensed by the FAA more than tripled between fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2023. So from 31 to 106 launches. The FAA is forecasting 111 launches in 24 And okay. The growth has largely been at federal ranges, so Cape Canaveral and Kennedy Space in Florida and Vandenberg in California. Federal ranges account for 51% of licensed launches. The federal ranges account for 51% of licensed launches in fiscal year 2020, growing to 78% in 23. Okay. Where are the other launches coming from? Why? Infrastructure capabilities and services are already readily available at those locations. Okay, so maybe I took the wrong angle here during when I was trying to come up with a reason. Maybe it's just that these other commercial spaceports don't have a lot of the amenities ready. They're not ready for these quick turnover launches that the federal spaceports are. So these facilities are also designed to support vertical orbital launches, which account for more than 80% of licensed launches in recent years. Well, there are 114 FAA licensed launch sites. Many are inland that traditionally have been unable to host orbital launches because of range safety issues. So Spaceport America is trying to fix that. They hosted the Virgin Galactic suborbital flights. So if I recall correctly, Virgin Galactic had a large plane drop a smaller plane, like a space plane, from underneath it. So it got the space plane up to a certain height and then it dropped it. And then that space plane took off and gained the acceleration it needed to get into orbit. Competition would award $2 million to the first company to receive an FAA license for and later attempt an orbital launch from Spaceport America. What I'm disappointed in is that Space Force and others are very focused on the Cape, Vandenberg, and Wallops. I did not know that Kennedy Space Center is referred to as Wallops. Yeah, Wallops Flight Facility. Location is in Wallops Island, Virginia, so it's not Kennedy Flight Center then. Okay. This would require vehicle operators to find ways to abort safely. Maybe your payload capacity goes down, but then you have the ability to do something safer. Okay. It was unlikely that the state would provide funding for the challenge this year. I hope to push again next year and maybe start working with other spaceports that are interested. There have been casual conversations about getting this done, trying to poke the very large bears that are SpaceX and will be Blue Origin, maybe ULA and Rocket Lab, trying to get them to launch from these inland spaceports. The issue of inland vertical launch came up during a session of the Space Mobility Conference here, January 30th, with the spaceport operators and Space Force officials suggesting it is unlikely to happen soon. Okay. It's about flight heritage. When do you consider a particular model of rocket to have X number of consecutive successful launches that you would call it routine? Okay. So Falcon 9, which has had one in-flight failure in nearly 300 launches, might qualify. Anything else? So policy implications. They need reliability in order to give the green light or the thumbs up to inland launching, probably, so they don't dump a bunch of rocket fuel over inland habitants. For one Australian spaceport, inland launches will not be a problem. Michael Jones, the executive chairman of Equatorial Launch Australia, said that they have identified trajectories that enable launches from the Arnhem Space Center in the Northern Territory that go to the south for missions to SSO, Sun-synchronous orbit, which is an extremely popular orbit for Earth observation. They can launch to SSO 3,700 kilometers and not fly over a person. Okay, cool. back out of that. What else we got? Let's do one more article. Firefly to continue responsive launch operations for future alpha missions. Eutelsat stop services on Asian satellites. There are satellite phone networks. This was something that we just recently launched 6 or 7 6 or 7 satellites that will be focused on providing access to phone networks in space. I forget who did that at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was SpaceX. Blue Origin touts capabilities of Blue Ring transfer vehicle. Okay, so Blue Origin has a transfer vehicle as well, or as some lovingly refer to it as space tugs. Sometimes sometimes engineers can come up with pretty cool names. All right, here is an artist rendition, I assume, of the Blue Ring orbital transfer vehicle that can host more than 3,000 kilograms of payload, operating in Earth orbit through cislunar space. Okay, that's very interesting design. It almost looks like there's solar panels rolled out from this assembly here. So it's just, huh? That'd be very cool. So that if they were able to, I don't know, either create hard solar panels that were thin enough that you could roll them up into a roll of a certain diameter, or if they are just fully flexible solar panels. What is this? Visual search. Okay. Huh. That's cool. I never saw that. Is this an edge feature? Sorry, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing, but I will affirm verbally that it is or is not an edge feature. It is. Wow. So this lovely visual search button on the top right here. Yeah, and then it pops open the Edge Copilot or whatever assist, yeah, Copilot. Choose a conversation style. Sure, we'll generate a page summary. Don't send my browsing data. Confirm. Okay, I'll let that generate while we move on. So it has Blue Origin has a vehicle called Blue Ring, which provides a wide array of in-space logistic and delivery services from Earth orbit to cislunar space and beyond. The company had been hinting about developing a space tug for at least a year. We are bringing Blue Ring to market to do a lot of missions that are starting to emerge from national security, civil, and eventually commercial. Blue Ring has 12 docking ports, each able to accommodate payloads weighing up to 500 kilograms. A top deck on the spacecraft can carry payloads weighing up to 2.5 tons. Wow. 12 docking ports. The spacecraft offers 3,000 meters per second of delta V, so if you've played Kerbal Space Program, 3,400 is what's required to get you from the ground up to low Earth orbit. So the fact that they are already in low Earth orbit and then able to push you farther is quite a lot of delta V. The core mission is to deploy satellites in their desired orbits, but the spacecraft can also be used as a bus for hosted payloads. We can serve as a very capable bus with a design life of 3 to 5 years initially. Okay. So the ports on Blue Ring could be used to incorporate additional capabilities. One example he gave is robotic arms to support in-space servicing. They absolutely see that as an extended capability. So this is kind of a do-it-all in space. It's refuelable and able to refuel other spacecraft. Okay, so this is one thing that happens very often with space companies. You say that you can do A, B, C, and D. It's not just space companies, to be fair, but you say you can do A, B, C, and D, and you have yet to do any of them. It's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of business talk. Let's see if the engineering can follow up. So they haven't publicly disclosed when the first blue ring will launch. Then it starts talking about the new Shepherd. Okay, I'm gonna hop out of that. Let's see what was generated here. So you heard what I said. Okay, sure. So I tried to generate the page summary based off of that image, this image that we had just looked at, and instead it gave me, it told me about the tools that I can use to summarize web pages. Okay. So instead of summarizing the web page, it told me what tools I can use to summarize the web page. All right. Very cool. Still helpful. To be fair, it's still helpful. All right, I'm at 16 minutes right now. This is my first time on payloadspace.com. Let's have a look at what they can provide. This is specific to business. At least that's what they said. They cover the business and policy of space. So the Starship report, a comprehensive look into SpaceX's next generation launch vehicle. There's space payload research. Ooh. Jack Kerr, the esteemed research director of payload. I wouldn't use the word esteemed. Please don't. Gave a peek under the hood of payload research, our new research and intelligence venture. Payload spoke to Nate Gonzalez. This is about understanding AI's impact on space data with Payload's head of product. Okay, there have been some articles on that. All right, I think we're definitely done for the day off from those two websites. Let's see if we can pop an Ars Technica quickly. The U.S. military appears to, so the title of the page, SpaceX at the service of a rival, Endeavor goes vertical. The U.S. military appears interested in owning and operating its own fleet of starships. Okay. So here we have a picture of a launch vehicle, vertical launch vehicle. We have the main engine so the main vehicle is an engine with some fuel tanks, and I'm not sure what's up in this fairing. At the top, we have two booster rockets on the side of the main launch vehicle, and then a space, what are we calling these again? A space plane at the top. So this is the Space Shuttle Endeavour. This is edition 6.29 of the Rocket Report by our friend Stephen Clark. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is the only U.S. launch vehicle offering crew or cargo services to the ISS. The previous version of the Northrop Grumman's Antares rocket retired last year, forcing that company to sign a contract with SpaceX to launch its Cygnus supply ships to the ISS. They're still waiting on the ULA's Atlas V to begin launching astronauts on Boeing's Starliner crew capsule to the ISS. Basically, it's SpaceX or bust. It's a good thing that the Falcon 9 has proven to be the most reliable rocket in history. Virgin Galactic flies 4 passengers to the edge of space. Oh, cool. So they're still doing space tourism. So Virgin Galactic conducted its first suborbital mission of 2024 on January 26 as the company prepares to end flights of its current space plane. So Galactico 6 was the name of the flight. It carried 4 customers, along with 2 pilots on a suborbital hop over New Mexico aboard the VSS Unity. Previous commercial flights had 3 customers on board, along with a Virgin Galactic astronaut trainer. The customers, which Virgin Galactic did not identify until after the flight, held U.S., Ukrainian, and Austrian citizenship. These go for, I think, $150,000 a pop, so I'm not surprised if all 3 of these people are billionaires. or multimillionaires. Virgin Galactic announced last year it would soon wind down flights of VSS Unity, citing the need to conserve its cash reserves for development of its next generation Delta class of suborbital vehicles. Okay. Yeah, Virgin Galactic has had some troubles with cash flow over the last I think the last decade. They did go under when it came to funding. Like, they stopped funding their launch program entirely a few years ago. So these future vehicles are intended to fly more frequently and at a lower cost than Unity. Let's have a look at this. Unity, what are we talking about here? So suborbital spaceflight, I don't care about the... It's a Spaceship 2 class suborbital rocket powered crew spaceplane. That's a mouthful. So it's a plane, and but it is assumedly jet powered. Oh, I'm not seeing anything that tells me how it gets to flight. How it gets to space, to its suborbital. How do you get there? Maybe we can find a video. Yeah, there it is. So our friend here is going to describe
and then a
this for us.
smaller rocket-powered aircraft attached underneath. And in just minutes, we expect that smaller ship, the VSS, or Virgin Spaceship Unity, to separate and then blast off to an altitude of about 50 miles above the Earth. And
okay, so very large plane gets the Unity into a certain spot, and then the Unity disconnects and then fires its jet engine. It's rocket-powered engine to get itself to where it wants to go. It sounded like the periapsis would be 15 miles. All right. My voice is going, and so I'm going to leave you there. Thank you very much for staying tuned. We will chat tomorrow. I hope you have a lovely day. Bye-bye.